Welcome everyone to this week's Walk on Water moment. And for this week, I have got a beautiful lady with me by the name of Rochelle. And boy, has she got a fabulous Walk on Water moment to share with us all. So I don't want to waste any time. I'd like to get straight into it and introduce you to Rochelle. Hi, Rochelle.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. And how is your week going?
It's going great so far, thank you.
And thanks so much for joining us here. It's just lovely to have you share your special moment. And I just realized that Walk on Water is actually your wow moment, which is, pretty exciting. So let's get straight into it. Rochelle, what is your wow moment that you'd like to share with us?
The one that really stands out to me as being such a pivotal point for me in moving forward and actually changing my life in so many ways. I actually had gone away. I'll come to that later, how I actually got to that. But I disconnected from everybody and everything in my life. And to do that without distraction, I ended up going away. I packed my bag and I went away. And that midway through my stay, it ended up being in Mauritius, I found myself being drained back to everybody all the time. And I just couldn't go inward. I couldn't do the work that I needed to do. And it was this moment of this real disconnection, actually. And it's not a horrible disconnection from other people, but what it was is a disconnecting from everything that distracted me from myself, which was my thing in my life. I was always busy and doing everything for everybody else, like a lot of us do. And so it was actually going away and giving myself special space to just be. So I did. I worked at disconnecting from everyone I loved, and I had a day of tears. I had a day of complete breakdown. And to my surprise, there were a few little stories that led up to this moment, but the following morning I happened to be sitting at the very tip of Mauritius on the rocks, and I happened to watch the sunrise. And it was at that moment that my mind was blank, my heart was full, but I had a complete space of nothing. And I kind of laughed to myself thinking I've come all this way for nothing, but what the nothing ended up being was a complete moment of self. I realised that in the space of nothing, you're actually everything. You're connected to everything. And
wow.
Yeah, and it was quite profound for me because I'd always been so busy and distracted in my life, and to actually have that moment, and every so often I'd pull myself back into that nothing space so that I can reset. And, in that space, you can eliminate the things that aren't working and bring in the things that are. But my walk on water moment would have to be a nothing space, which is kind of bizarre, but it was a turning point for me to even realise that these spaces exist in our lives.
And isn't it great, Rochelle, because sometimes we think a wow moment or a walk on water moment has to be something that is filled with whatever it needs to be. But to hear you say it was actually a nothing space is just beautiful, because I guess that nothing space is where we just allow everything to be. Yeah. So, Rochelle, what actually led up to this moment?
Okay. So I had a lot of childhood stuff start coming up for me. I've lost a lot of weight. All of a sudden I looked myself in the mirror and said, be who you should have been if no one ever broke you. And so it was a stripping away of a lot of the programming that I'd done. And in that process, I actually lost 35 kilos in 6 months. Yeah, it was pretty phenomenal. But what that did is everyone around me started treating me differently too. And I felt a little bit of a stranger in my own life. And so I didn't know where I fitted. And my life all of a sudden resembled a lot of my childhood, where I was in a family where I didn't know where my love was in that. And I needed to go away to complete what I'd started. So, really it was me getting very frustrated with my husband because he couldn't tell me whether he loved me or not, because that was such a shock for him that I would look so different. I just up and left pretty much and wrote a note and it was something that I just trusted completely instinctually that I needed to go. I think quite often we excuse ourselves out of whatever we're doing. We don't follow our instincts. We sort of go, oh no, I can't do that. There's no way. But it was a lot of trust, and it was a lot of, well, no, I actually need to do this for me. And so it was going away to heal. I did a lot of forgiveness. I learned to trust. I let go of a lot of things in my life that weren't working. Unlearned and deprogrammed a lot of the conditioning in my childhood, and as a result I actually know who I am now, and before that I don't think I did.
Yeah. And sometimes I think we do have to be selfish to create that time and that space for ourselves.
I think it's having enough self-love to be worthy of a little bit of space to actually go in. But it took half my trip, and I was away for over 3 weeks, to actually have the courage to go in.
Yes,
yeah. And in there I found who I'd lost probably a long time ago. So, yeah.
It can be very scary, but wow, congratulations, and what a fabulous way to go. So within finding this nothing space, Rochelle, what has that, or how has that really changed your life?
It gave me the awareness of being very, living very externally up until that moment. I was very reactive to my environment, to people, to everything around me. I never really, I'd lost myself along the way. And so with this space, it's where I sat. It's where my heart sat. It's where my true self sat, in that space of nothing. And for me, like, a nothing space is just like a space of self. It's the vortex. It's the void. It's whatever you want to call it. It's the inner child. It's whatever it is. But it's when you're silent and you're in that space, you actually can connect deep within yourself and actually know how you feel or what you think. And look, it was profound because I live very externally. Now I try to balance that. I don't get caught up. I know very quickly when I'm being reactive to something that it's not even necessarily about me. I just can step back. Just take a moment every now and then for myself.
And what has happened to you within your working life? Have you sort of moved on from there? And
well, what was really interesting, I'd never written before. I actually wasn't very good at English at all as a child, and I think it was because my heart was so shut. I lived in my head so much I couldn't actually write. I overanalyzed. I couldn't do it. And what happened is, when my heart opened, all of a sudden language started flowing from me. So one of the gifts that I had in Mauritius was a 1,000-year-old banyan tree. And I was that's another wild moment, completely blown away by the magnitude of a tree that was massive, and dropped aerial roots and then became new trunks, and so the strength and the mythology of this beautiful tree. So I sat and I wrote, and I connected into the spirit and the mythology of this particular tree. And so it's a message that I now bring through, and I've written several books. I've now got guidance cards. I actually snuck some of her aerial roots back in to Australia. I actually got her essence in an oil, and people are getting beautiful results just connecting into her energy with alchemy oil. It's just growing from there. And really, a lady once said to me, she had a connection with a beautiful tree at a point in her life where she'd just lost her mother. And she said, if you're ever gifted by that from a tree, like a beautiful connection, you can't keep it to yourself. It's just something that you have to share. It's a gift for the world. It's not just ever for you. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been paying that forward and gifting those beautiful words from the beautiful banyan.
Well, what a beautiful story that you've shared with us today, Rochelle, and I really appreciate it, and I'm sure all of our viewers and listeners are, enjoying it as well. And I want to thank you so much for sharing it with us, and I'm hoping that someday down the track, very soon, you might like to share another walk on water moment with us at some point. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Pleasure.